Hi, good afternoon. I'm Marlene Nice. I'm the Deputy Cultural Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Rome. Welcome to Transatlantic Thursday, a series that we produce at the U.S. Embassy with our U.S. consulates in Milan, Florence, and Naples. Today is our last virtual program for our Fall 2020 series, and we're going to talk about how to bring back art and culture in a post-COVID society. We're going to focus on innovation and technology because we're joining with some partners from the Maker Faire 2020. This is the largest gathering of artists, makers, innovators, inventors, and techies in Europe. The U.S. Embassy has supported and collaborated with the Maker Faire for the past 8 years, and we're delighted that this year the Maker Faire is continuing even in a virtual format. In today's program, we're going to hear from Massimiliano Colella, General Director of Innova Camera, the organizer of the Maker Faire. Then we'll hear from 2 of the 10 Americans participating in this year's Maker Faire, Christiane Paul and Asher Remy-Toledo. They'll tell us about their experiences in reviving art and culture in this time. After their presentation, we'll have a conversation with Valentino Catricalá, Curator of Maker Art at the Maker Faire. As always, we'll have some time for viewers' questions, so please, anytime during the program, write them in the YouTube chat or in the Facebook comments as you're viewing the program, and I'll get to you later as the moderator. So now I'm going to send it over to Massimiliano Colella.
Grazie Marlene, sono veramente felice di essere qui con voi questo pomeriggio, anche se stiamo lavorando duro per i preparativi per questa sera, per dare l'avvio alla Maker Faire e poi da domani per essere online con la piattaforma. Sono felice perché, come hai già ricordato te, sono parecchi anni che Maker Faire collabora con l'ambasciata americana e realizza delle bellissime iniziative insieme. Ogni anno facciamo delle cose molto molto divertenti. Purtroppo quest'anno non possiamo sperimentarci fisicamente come negli anni scorsi, però abbiamo tantissimi relatori online grazie al supporto dell'ambasciata americana. Questa sera ricordo che all'Opening Conference avremo 4 relatori dagli Stati Uniti. Avremo Osama Khatib, che è il direttore del laboratorio di robotica di Stanford, forse il maggior robotico a livello mondiale. Poi abbiamo Bernie Roth, che è il direttore del Institute di Stanford. Abbiamo Anouk Wipret, stilista, fashioner, tech fashioner. Poi abbiamo Jeffrey Sachs, che è un economista alla Columbia University. E poi nei giorni prossimi, all'interno del canale curato da Valentino, Maker Art, abbiamo dei nomi d'eccezione, Ashi, Christiane, abbiamo Lemmanovic e tantissimi altri personaggi dagli Stati Uniti. Io credo che questo sia il miglior segno e il miglior segnale della nostra collaborazione, della volontà di raccontare l'innovazione in tutti i suoi campi, dall'arte alla robotica, dall'agroalimentare all'internet delle cose e insomma in tutti i settori della vita. Il motto che ci portiamo dietro è che l'innovazione o è per tutti o non è innovazione. Grazie Marlene, ti rilascio la parola.
Massimiliano, thank you very much. And now I would like to send it over to Valentino Catricalá, who will introduce our 2 speakers for today. And don't forget, send us questions in the YouTube chat and the Facebook comments. Valentino, over to you.
So thank you, Marlene. Thank you, Massimiliano, for the kind introduction. I have been curating the art section of the Maker Faire since last edition, and I'm very happy to do that because I always thought that the art can be an engine not only for the contemporary artwork but for innovation as well. And today we have 2 very credible and very happy that they are here guests. Christiane Paul, she's a scholar, she's very writers, and she's also curator at the Whitney Museum. And Asher Remy-Toledo is the founder of Hyphen Hub Community Network. It's a very incredible, big community around the relationship between art, technology, and innovation. And so I think that this could be a starting point to reflect on our future, because we are living in a very strange time, and we are living in times that needs a new idea of future. And so I hope that our conversation could be sort of starting point, let's say, of to reflect and to understand the future we are going to live. So maybe it's too ambitious, but let's start from ambitious stuff. So thank you, and I give you the word. So should I have to Christiane, and so that thank you for being here, Christiane, and so give you the word.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for the introduction, Valentino, and for having me at this event. It's a great honor to be here, and I will start sharing my screen. I'm going to give just a very brief overview as a starting point of what has been happening in this great reset and what kind of models the art world has been developing in order to deal with it. As you said, Valentino, I'm the Adjunct Curator of Digital Art at the Whitney Museum and also the Director and Chief Curator of the Sheila C. Johnson Design Center at the New School. So obviously art this year has moved online, and I want to make a distinction between art online, the representation of art online, and online art that natively lives in this medium. For museums and arts organizations, the goals this year have really been to continue exhibition and educational programming to sustain the museums and galleries and institutions' presence and brand, and to even try to build audiences during this very difficult time. There are several models for doing that, providing access to original works of online art or presenting site-specific art through mixed and augmented reality, to provide online access to documentation of physical exhibitions that are trapped in their galleries, and to translate physical exhibitions into virtual space. And I want to just give a few examples of all of these. At the Whitney Museum, I've been very lucky because I have since 2001 been running a website called Artport, for which we commission several online art projects per year. And just to give you one example, one of the recent ones was New York Apartment by Sam Levine and Tiga Brain, in which the artists scraped a prominent real estate site in New York and accumulated all of the listings into one gigantic apartment that costs hundreds of millions, consists of 65,000 bedrooms and 55,000 bathrooms. What the project really ends up being is a portrait of the New York real estate market. It is accompanied by several aggregated floor plans. And I think this work really resonated with the time of the pandemic, where everybody was spending time at home and really felt like they were living in this connected yet isolated New York apartment. Another series I'm doing for the Artport site is Sunrise Sunset, where every morning at sunrise and every evening at sunset, New York time, the website is being taken over by a short artistic intervention. And we were also able to respond quickly to the situation there. The work that is currently on view is American Artists Looted, in which the artist every morning and every evening boards up, so to speak, the whole Whitney.org website by replacing all of the images with wooden boards, alluding to the recent protests about racial injustice, but also to the fact that many museums are holding what is ultimately looted artworks. So if you come to any page of Whitney.org, Artport here as an example, you might then experience how that page is taken over and everything is replaced. So this is what it would look like at sunset for 30 seconds. I also want to briefly talk a little bit about augmented reality, which has seen an enormous rise right now in times of the pandemic. What you're seeing right now is a work by Tamiko Thiel, Unexpected Growth. This was not created and commissioned during the pandemic, but before it. It was shown in the exhibition program, Rules, Codes, and Choreographies in Art at the Whitney Museum, but also proves to be a perfect pandemic piece. What the artists did here is quite specific work for the Whitney's terraces that references climate change. It actually imagines the terraces of the Whitney Museum being underwater, and you see this beautiful coral reef, but it is built out of pollutants and plastic debris. So you're seeing flip-flops and plastic forks and spoons, etc. And there also is an interactive component to this, in the sense that the more people view this project during the course of the day, the more this coral reef of plastic actually bleaches, and you can access this work on your phone, and also were able to see it through iPads in the museum space. The Whitney Museum did another AR piece in the lobby by artist Alan Michelson, who is Native American artist, and alludes to the fact in this work that the location of the Whitney Museum was, when the Lenape people still inhabited it, a tobacco field. So what you see here in the lobby are tobacco plants. And I just want to show a couple more examples here of AR art that was recently on view, or is Vince Fraser's We Rise Above, which was done and organized by Artec House, and also directly references the Black Lives Matter movement. And Digital Art Month in New York also featured a variety of AR pieces. And AR has also been very successfully used for outreach and exhibition information. What you see here is a brief documentation clip of an AR project done by Artifact for MUMOC in Vienna in Austria, where people can basically, through augmented reality, get information about exhibitions, or even about buying access passes to the museum. So this kind of combination of visitor experience and outreach. Another big aspect of bringing art to audiences at this moment is the online representation of physical exhibitions. What you're seeing in the background is a brief documentation of the Whitney Museum's exhibition Vida Americana, which is currently on view. And what you get here is documentation of the show, historical video, and really scholarship about the background of this exhibition. And of course, for quite some time through Google Arts and Culture, we have also had 3D views of insides of museums, yet another way of bringing physical exhibitions to the public. So I want to move to yet another aspect that we have seen in recent months in particular, and that is the translation of physical exhibitions into virtual worlds. What you're seeing here are installation shots of Claudia Hart's exhibition, The Ruins, at Bitform's Gallery in New York. Without getting too deeply into the work, it is a take on the ruins of modernism and paintings from Matisse to Picasso. And the artist has also created a complete replica of this exhibition in Mozilla Hubs as a virtual world. So people were also able to visit this show online, and the artist has given multiple tours for audiences in the virtual space, which really is a one-to-one replica as of the exhibition as you would experience it at the gallery. And then we also have exhibitions in virtual worlds originally created for them. What you're seeing here right now is a fly-through of Julie Walsh's exhibition Restart. And I think it's important to make a distinction here because this exhibition has really been conceived for a virtual space with little stations where you hear interviews with the respective artists talking about their exhibitions. So this an AR work by Nancy Baker Cahill and a work here by Tamiko Thiel once again. So this show takes work that one could also experience in physical space, but really reconfigures it for a virtual environment. A different model for this is Demoda by Alfredo Salazar Caro and William Robertson. So Demoda has been around for some time, but this is a museum that exists exclusively in virtual space. So for every version and rendition of Demoda, you have a different virtual space created with little pavilions, which you then would enter to experience different artworks in this space. So Demoda can be experienced virtually only, but it also goes on tour with every new rendition and version of it, and is shown as installation in museums around the world. And I'm very happy to be the curator of Demoda 4.0 Dislocation, which will launch hopefully next year. We conceived this rendition of Demoda before the pandemic, but I think it really nicely resonates in its theme of dislocation and also in the architecture of this version of the virtual museum, which kind of shows a deserted Brooklyn in which it is embedded. And I'll stop it here for now and hand it back to the floor. And I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Christiane. Very, very interesting, especially during this period. And
I'm Asher. I'm also based in New York, and I have a non-profit arts organization that works at the intersection of art and creative technology. We are a global community of artists, creators, curators, engineers working with AI, cyborgs, people working at the cross-disciplinary field, and everybody's united. The common thread is innovation technology. We also work with exhibitions. Performances is kind of one of our main things, and always pushing the boundaries of what one medium is. So hyphen hub, hyphen means the guide, the dash that unites, but it's also the dash that differentiates from another discipline. And hub is the center where everything converges. So I'll go to, I'm going to show you a minute and a half video of what we do, which is give you a better idea. In it, you're going to have some of the artists that we work with, like Fashion Tech, including Anouk Ruprecht, who's talking tonight at the opening, and also some of her the prosthetic legs that she has designed, the robotic arms of Jason Barnes, who's the fastest drummer in the world, and also going to see some images of a gastronomic VR experience by the Italian artist Mattia Casalegno, who we have worked with extensively. So let me start here.
Love the fact that it's called Hyphen Hub, and in between.
Hyphen Hub is really devoted to creating an international network of tech innovators and artists who are working in the field of art science and technology.
Other ones of the artists that we are bringing in this one to the Maker Faire is the group Attractor Studios from Bogota, Colombia, and they are one of the ways that we work with artists as well. And it's there is never a straight line. Everything depends on what the needs of the artists are. We work with mostly in collaboration, in partnership with another institution. In this case, was CERN, Arts of CERN. And so we submitted Attractor as one of our proposals. They were accepted. Hyphen Hub was the producer of the project, and which now is touring all around the world. And we are also working on in bringing this piece of Attractor, which is going to be another version touring in other institutions, like Barbara London. Who was working until recently at MoMA. She is organizing a sound installation to tour around, and she selected one of these works for her tour. These are the three guys from Attractor at CERN. And this another one of the institutions that we have partnered with many times is the United Nations. And here where I'm a frequent guest for issues of women in tech, breaking boundaries, youth empowerment, and this one in particular is about the International Day of Disabilities. Here we have somebody doing the signs for people that have hearing impairment. So they, like in this case, they bring technology companies to talk about all the advances in technologies to help people with other abilities. And I go and talk from the point of view of an arts organization that is working with many artists that are, some of them, they have some type of disabilities or other abilities, as you call, or they are interested in this subject. Here, for example, we have this design by Anouk Wieprecht, who, as I mentioned, is talking tonight as one of the keynote speakers. So Anouk designed this prosthetic leg. The one on the left side, that is the first bionic pop star, Victoria Modesta. Victoria was born in Latvia, grew up in the UK, now lives in LA. And also at the bottom part is also Victoria, also another piece designed by Anouk. And this one is all musical, the musical leg. Victoria has a harness, which also becomes kind of a violin. So pretty much a lot of parts of her body become a musical instrument. And the one above with smoke is also another piece by Anouk, and that is the smoke dress. So when Victoria steps, move her leg up, it activates the smoke. And the one on the top right with the colors, that is Anouk's latest project that was created by poor Angelina Bruno, which is a Belgian dancer, pop dancer. And this was the first piece actually that got released last week, the first piece to be included in a video game. With having what I mean is having somebody with prostheses as one of the main characters of a video game. So for Anouk, I just wanted to say that tomorrow I'm having a conversation with Anouk. I believe it's at 6 p.m. where we are going to focus mostly about prosthetics. So please, if you want to hear about it, don't miss it. Talking about disabilities, still, this is another project with the UN. This is with the UN Women. And here, and on the left is also one of the Hyphen Hub most value artists that I work with, Janet Biggs. Janet works with NASA. She does a lot of projects with them, and also very interested, deeply involved in disabilities. Here we are with somebody that has had a terrible accident and lost both of her legs, and she was a rock climber. And after she recovered, she still wanted to be a rock climber, which she is. So we brought her to the UN to talk also from her angle about what she's been doing. And on the right side we have Jason Barnes. Jason is also had an electrical accident and he lost his arm, and so he got in touch with Gil Weinberg, which is an Israeli engineer who's the director of the Department of Music and AI at Georgia Tech. And Gil developed this arm that has AI in it. Is connected to the brain neurons through sensors. So two of the sticks one is connected to the brain, the other one is connected to the AI. And Jason became now the fastest drummer in the world. We did a couple of performances last year in New York as part of Hyphen Hub, and where we explain how it works and also the future of these technologies. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this here is this was a project that I was part of. That I was the co-founder of a group called No Longer Empty. This was in 2008 during the last recession, and I'm bringing it because I think it's so relevant to this moment where we are now, where there's so many empty spaces everywhere. So it's this was and it became a kind of a world movement. After we did this, at the beginning it was pretty hard to find empty spaces. The landlords were like, "What should I give you an empty space?" But then when we started with our first one, which was the Chelsea Hotel, which had some empty spaces on the ground floor, after that things moved fast. And the next one was a building by the famous High Line. Then it was the famous Tower Record Store, which is above, the picture above. And that one we had over 60 artists or so that participated in it. From like many of the vinyls that you see were made by artists. They look like a real record, but it's actually they made by artists. We did tons of conversations about the changing of the music industry. We did performances and so on. Then here there's another exhibition that we did that became also very iconic. This was at the Invisible Dog Factory in Brooklyn. And it was a factory that had been closed for many years. And they used to do these leashes that you see at the bottom for invisible dogs. So we opened the exhibition with a performance, and there's people walking on the streets with the invisible dog leashes, and it was a complete hit. On the top right, we have one of the educational panels, which became a signature of No Longer Empty, doing a lot of programs with education. We see in the middle is Manon Slom, who was my partner, who co-founded the group with me. And on the right, actually, it is Julia Draganovic, who is now the director of Villa Massimo in Rome, which is the German cultural house in Rome. Julia was very instrumental also from the beginning and being part of us as one of the curators and advisors in the programs. And she brought a lot of Italian artists, actually. So this one of the Freight Elevator here is one of my very favorite artists that I work with. His name is Giuseppe Stampone. And he, with his father, they came and they built all the verses from the Dante's Inferno and through the building shaft, empty shaft. This was another project that after the No Longer Empty in New York, I got invited to participate in the Liverpool Biennial in 2010, I believe. So the director of the biennial said, what you guys are doing in New York is so relevant to us. We've been in recession for the last 60 years. We have plenty of empty spaces in downtown Liverpool. So I went and they offered me tons of places and I just grabbed whatever I could handle. And these are, we have Marina Rosenfeld on the top, on the bottom right. She's a great artist from New York. The top artist with the turntables is Phil Jack, which is one of the classic, most prominent sound artists in the UK. And then we have at the bottom we have I took the record store idea of Tower Records, but added another element because because we No Longer Empty, one of our focuses was to work with size specificity. So when I went to Liverpool and I had like 20 spaces, I said, how can I be size specific for all of these spaces? So I thought about sound and music. So we brought all these musicians to live in Liverpool and we created performances every night. We had a vinyl record cutter. So we gave one record to every performer. We kept one in the store. And by the end, we have a full record store. So it was one of the most important exhibitions of the biennial because it was not just for the art world, but it was for the city itself. And on the bottom left, again, I have Giuseppe Stampone. And Giuseppe did a very, very interesting piece at that time. At the time, it was still the crisis, the bank crisis. So Giuseppe took 5 coffins, and each of them represented a country in Europe that has been, affected by the debt. So I think it was Italy, Ireland, Portugal, Greece. I forgot the 5th one, but basically you put a coin in the little slot machine, and then the national anthem of that country will sound. But there were some times that the little coin didn't work, and Giuseppe said, it means that it doesn't matter how much money you put in, it's not gonna come back alive. So that was kind of an Italian joke there. So we'll.
No, sorry. Please go ahead. But just to tell you that if you other 2 minutes, okay?
2 minutes, yeah, perfect. Okay, I'll go here. Now talking about virtual spaces, we have the Mozilla Hub. This is last week I curated a festival in Bogota called Real Mix, and this was Fito Segrera, who's a great artist who actually was a student of Christiane Paul. Fito created this place, which is we did an art salon, one of the style of Hyphen Hub salons, and then we did a performance. This is Claudia Hart, which is going to be showing also during the Faire, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 5 p.m. She has a performance every day with a live performer, which is this one here. I would like to show you a video, but I'm afraid I don't have the time. This was the festival which took place, the entire festival in a Mozilla Hub. And it's this Carla Ganis, another artist that I presented. And Carla is also one of the pioneers in Mozilla Hubs. And you enter through here to create an exhibition that was 57 artists from every medium, from sculpture to video performance. And finally, talking about what New York is doing, New York is being very creative, resourceful for all this now during the pandemic. This is theater people doing impromptu performances around the city. This is a group that I'm involved with. I'm part of the board. And so we do all these events all over the city, and just with singers, writers, poets. And there's another group that I'm part of the board. It's called Art on the Avenue. It's also created to take over empty spaces, stores, doing performance, music things. This was the podcast that we just did, if anybody's interested in it. This was with the Director of Cultural Affairs in London at the bottom left, and the one on the right is the Director of the Bank of Israel, who were the ones who funded the project in New York. And the 2 ladies were the 2 founders of the group, Art on the Avenue. And finally, this is one of the artists also that we work with, Sybil Kempson. She did a project on the right with the Whitney Museum for 3 years in the series of rituals. And so for Sybil, for example, now, because many of her shows got canceled, she's teaching classes about how to learn nature, how to recognize, go in the wilderness. So I just want to end with this, which is, non è la specie più forte a sopravvivere e nemmeno quella più intelligente. Sopravvive la specie che risponde meglio al cambiamento. So I leave you with that. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Asher, and thank you. Sorry for having asked you, but this is the dirty job of a moderator, So it is. I think that it's very interesting to have heard you, because you have given somehow 2 different way to deal with this pandemic and lockdown issues, let's say. From one side, Christiane showed us the virtual reality project, mostly, and you instead have shown us mostly a physical project, except, the Claudia Hart and other 2 or 3, So this is a very, I know, as you say, 1 million question, but in your opinion, how will, exhibition change after COVID and, in post-COVID condition? Because, how will the online part be important? So Christiane, if you want to start.
Yeah, I hope that this year has really meant a great reset for the art world in really considering potential and possibilities. Museums in New York are, of course, open since September, have been for a while, but with limited capacity and all of the precautions. What we have seen is a lot of focus on the virtual and online in all of the different forms that I have shown, but also on street performance. And I hope that this reaching out and representation online will continue and not collapse once things go back to normal, in the sense that exhibitions will be shown at a larger scale. Because I think there is a great potential for reaching different audiences, for being more international in programming, for scholarship, etc., that this work online enables. We all love to see art in physical space, and a lot of it has to be seen in physical space. But I think this is really a moment to reconsider how we can build and harness the potential of virtual showings of the type of work that Asher has shown, art on the streets, and really reaching out. I realize that there also is a financial factor to all of this, and that budgets need to be renegotiated to strike that balance.
Can I? Okay, so let Asher, please.
No.
Will.
Oh.
Okay, that.
Yeah, pretty similar to Christian said, but I think it's definitely it has pushed the digital speed. We were getting there, but now we're just like forced to go into it. So people have to be so artists who are usually the first ones to explore all kind of things. They were there and they just saw it as a new tool. It's like there was a saying by Plato or Einstein. They both seem to be credited with it. It's called "Matter is the necessity of invention." So and it pretty much goes to it. Like we have to adapt, because otherwise we're just, at the beginning it was pretty hard for everybody. But then we said, okay, we have to do something. If we want to eat tomatoes, in a few weeks, we better put the seeds now. So with artists, they breaking all these boundaries, ideas, being on top of expressing this moment in culture, that is a good way to energize and rally other people. But I think we're going to be hybrid, because we already tested the water, see how comfortable actually we feel with all this technology, and when we are ready to go back to physical, we are not going back fully physical, and we are not going to stay digital, because we are, we love people. So it's kind of but we are finding the perfect combination for the two of them to survive more equally. And I believe, just finally, that I think that this all these things happening now, the social movement, all this bad stuff that is coming to afloat, is a way to remind us that we've been living in a very comfortable with soft pillows under us, and we don't think about the other people that are not in our same level. So it is a way to try to make our world more equitable, justifiable, more democratic. And I think art and creativity, I'm not saying just art in the traditional sense of art, but creatively speaking, we all could be part of making this new world happen, creating a new vision to the future that is better, more equitable for us.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. And because Christiane, you have been one of the pioneers of online exhibition. It's quite interesting to see that. You show us project since 2001, which very, long time ago. From it's 90 years ago. And we are now talking about the same problems, because since before the coronavirus, the website on the online project were seen only as a window of the physical project, only sometimes. So I think that, the coronavirus and this, if there is a positive thing, if there is, and it is that it has been a real digital lab somehow. Now we have changed our mind. Our mind is different. Look at how many conferences and school we are doing, and you are one of the pioneers of this online exhibition, and you see this change in a really social mind, let's say, or not. Also respect of looking at what you did in the past.
Yeah, so it's a super complex issue. I've been involved with online art since the 90s. And when I say online art, I mean really net art, and artists who have been using the internet as a medium and as a platform for creation. So we're looking at almost 30 years of that practice already. And for all of us who have been involved in the early days, this feels like a flashback to the 90s, where we were struggling with technologies such as See You, See Me, and artists did online performances that were specifically about the problems of loading images and about delays. And you see the same mistakes being repeated by larger institutions who, for the first time, really full force enter this. So on the one hand, I would say this has been a great moment for net art, for online art, because it was the only art that could be experienced in its native form, rather than documentation of physical exhibitions. I think many more people have become familiar with it. I'm not saying that Artport didn't get attention in the media in the past, but it never got as much attention as it did this year and was Art Forum Critics Pick, etc. So I think one of the positive effects has been that this form of art has moved to the foreground. I think another positive experience has been that people have become more familiar with online navigating an online art world in general. One thing that is a little bit more problematic from my perspective is a lot of confusion about what an online exhibition means. And I hear that from audiences, I hear that from my students who are saying, I'm not sure what that is, because suddenly the video representation or representation of something physical online has become an online work to them. And I think that's really problematic. And that's why I try to make this distinction between online art, such as net art living in its natural habitat, or art online, the representation of physical work. But we're moving into a direction where even museums such as the Pompidou and the Louvre, etc., are presenting virtual tours of paintings, and you can enter it. So there is a blurring of the virtual and real that we have been experiencing for quite some time. It's a really interesting moment with a lot of positive things happening, and I think a lot of need to return to the drawing board in terms of making distinctions of our experiences.
Yeah, I would say we are entering a new paradigm of reality, as it was when the photography was invented or the film was invented. So now it's like this hybrid world where we are just like the blurring of the realities it is. And I find it fascinating, and it's and so I was saying is we should just take this as an opportunity to create the future that we want. And I think for Italy, I don't know what exactly how things are. You could tell us maybe a little bit about that, but it's in terms of this. But I know that many museums are closed, so many empty spaces. So how do we attract new people, and also like it's going to be a place without tourists? Tourists are many of the ones that come to the museums in regular times, to the Whitney Museum or to Italy. So I think we have to also think of that, and think of the domestic tourism, because they are the ones who are going to be there. And so how to really engage all these communities to to come and visit. They only came when they were little once. They need to start coming again. So we need to just think about the foreign tourist that is going to come and look at it and come back, in 5 years or 10 years when they visit again. But local people that are going to support these initiatives. So,
what I've seen also is that our, digital mind, somehow it has changed very fast. If we're doing the Maker Faire, and exactly what Christiane said, we thought for new project. Not only just pushing and putting on some videos or photos, but creating sort of site-specific project for the platform. And I think that this has been possible because now we have changed our mind, and we have after almost 6-7 months of lockdown, pandemic, blah blah blah. In the beginning, if the Maker Faire would have been done in February or March or April, for sure there's been probably, if it was done there, it would have been different, probably more superficial, instead of. So the way in which we have changed our mind, it has been very fast, very 6 months. We have completely changed. But at the same time, in my opinion, what this lockdown and pandemics teach us is that he said that we haven't exploited yet the possibility of digital, but at the same time is that we really need the physical as well. So, in my opinion, the future will be a real more integration between this toolbar. And if I think of an exhibition in the future, I will do a physical exhibition, but the website will be part of the exhibition itself. It's not only a window, for the. I don't know if you agree with that.
Absolutely. I think this is what has been missing in the past. Really treating the online space only as a window into the physical. And I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with the Google Arts and Culture kind of representation of a physical space. It's interesting to see what a show looks like in the gallery, expanding photos. But I think the real potential lies in treating online platforms as an extension of an exhibition and really challenging what exhibition means and really integrating those platforms and experiences much, much more than it has been in the past. And I hope that this will be one of the effects of this moment.
Yeah,
also, Asher, just a question to you. It has also changed the way in which the artist creates, because the artists now have discovered new tools, probably, and they're facing, probably it could have been from a positive point of view. It could have been also this situation a way to explore new border, I don't know, to pushing forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, one clear example for me, my case is, one of the main elements of Hyphen Hub has been live performances. And it just so how do I transform all that? And, many of the events that we do are very theatrical in a way. So it's we merge between the artists working with technologies to musicians, to dancers, to, all kind of stuff. So at the beginning, it was pretty hard, but now seeing, for example, the Mozilla hubs is something very fascinating, which is the social VR. And this is something totally new. How is that? And it's fascinating, what they can do. For example, Carla Ganis and her exhibition Telematic is fascinating. She designed her own space, the gallery space. She had 57 artists inside, and it's just wonderful how you are able to go and see the work in this other new field. It's like you create this your own museum space for the special exhibition that you created, which in real life you cannot do that. You have to fit it into the walls that you have. So that's interesting. And also Claudia Hart, which is this beautiful performance with the dancer and the music, which is all by designers that especially now work on virtual spaces, which is different than focusing on a physical space. So now there is this new career development example there. Fito Segura, who I just presented, and he's very into big data, AI, big guy into AI, and he just represented this very beautiful space that it looks very much like a Hyphen Hub space, which is kind of dark, eerie stuff in the style of a nightclub performance. And then we had a salon where he explained how things work, how the data interacts with with his brain, with the moments where he forgets something. So and then appears there, it gets captured by the AI, and then we do the live performance. And it was so beautiful because it was the first time, been in isolation all this time, and I've not been able to see all my friends from all over the world, and we all converged there in that space. There were people from all over the world, and we were all saying hello to each other, and hanging out. And after that, it was the closest thing to physical that I have experienced in 6 months. And in that case, I said, well, this really has a future. And yeah, so that's one thing to say, and I'm sure more things are being under development now. And as I say, artists are some of the people that have these tools to create things in very interesting ways, because technology is created usually with the aim of commerce, to sell you something, or to feed a purpose. But art doesn't have that. So the artists have more freedom to take these technologies and make it in a way that is more, I would say, democratic values, more freedom. That's what I'm so interested and excited about it.
Thank you, Asher. So thank you both. I'll give you the word to Marlene for a potential question. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Valentino, and thank you, Christiane and Asher. Those were really great presentations and so interesting. And you did get some of our viewers thinking too, if you don't mind a few questions from them. I think we have some educators who joined us today, because we have 3 people who are interested in knowing, how can we put this innovation that you've developed in your fields to work in the classroom? What can we use there? What can we transfer over to the classroom setting? Do you have any ideas on that?
Absolutely, because I'm also an educator. I'm a professor in the School of Media Studies at the New School, and I'm teaching students. So I am using many of the artworks that I have shown and technologies that I have shown here in the classroom, trying to translate this. For example, I take students into exhibitions in virtual space in Mozilla Hubs. I typically in my classes, we would do a site visit to a museum, etc., and experience art within the city. That, of course, was not possible. So I have organized Q&As and tours with artists in Mozilla Hubs. I think this is also a moment where you have a lot more material available about exhibitions, because so many institutions have really harnessed the moment in order to make more materials available online. So that is also something that has been really helpful in education. And then, of course, you can really teach students to also build online and use these, actively use these spaces, and engage in it. Many of my students have done online exhibitions right now. I work more in the art field naturally. So I think there are numerous possibilities for education to really dive into what has been made available at this moment in time.
Thank you. Asher, did you want to add something?
Well, yeah, I'm not a professor, but I do work with artists that are very into doing outreach to communities. Many of them, for example, the group Attractor, which are shown at the Maker Faire this weekend. All this stuff is maker DIY and and as part of the exhibitions that we have organized in many places, for example, in Liverpool or in Panama, Colombia, we have done performances, exhibition, then done projects, workshops with students in public schools, up to 3 months of workshops where a group of artists come and stay there for a week, then another set of artists come for another week, and so on and so on. Also, teaching the students and the professors, so a program stays there after they leave, and that is really beautiful and fascinating. How, because there are so many. The wheel is, it's pretty big. It's not just like people think that when you talk about new media art, you just see the piece there, but no, but it has so many components. There are so many collaborative practices that it comes with, and so many ways to express it, as learning how the things are made, teaching to do creative thinking, and then of course is the masses when you see it, how to see the world in a different way that we never thought of it.
Thank you. Those questions, by the way, were from Mara Chirichu and Nicole Alessandra Piatini. The next question is from, the name here is Docianata, and this person wants to know, what do you believe will be the main view on virtual reality as it becomes more and more accessible? Do you think people will be skeptical of it or more accepting?
I think people have become more and more accepting of it. We're now in the third wave of virtual reality. I mean, headsets were invented in the late 1960s, so we have seen use of the medium since then. I always point out that in, I believe, 1993, the Guggenheim Museum had an exhibition, Virtual Reality, the New Medium. But now we're really looking at way more accessibility. I have heard so many people in this moment saying virtual reality saved my life, because I think the use of headsets and exploring art or games or different worlds has become enormously attractive right now. So in that sense, the pandemic has really helped the home use of virtual reality. There will always be skepticism, of course. I treat it as any other technological medium with its great strengths and pitfalls. One thing that I'm a little bit more concerned about is presenting virtual reality in exhibition spaces, which also has been increasingly happening. You see VR art more and more in museums right now. But there I hear a lot of concern about people putting on headsets. I mean, you always disinfect them, but in a post-pandemic world, people seem to be a little less inclined to put on a headset in an exhibition space.
Yeah.
Okay, Asher?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's equal concerns, but I always been a little bit more skeptical of VR as an artistic practice, but I'm actually very embracing of the augmented reality experience, mixed reality. I think it's also because I'm more inclined towards live performances. I think it has more potential. And we have done some events where people just download the app on their phone, and they are just looking at the phone, seeing the flying spaces, things in the space, or you could create so many other things that has the potential for theater, music, which is kind of what interests me the most, more than individual exhibition, isolated moments. And but yeah, and we, and I think also like sound, ambisonic sound experiences. Sound is another thing that is very, very beautiful and very much my interest. We created, I was part of a Broadway show that was called The Encounter a few years ago, and it's about a tour of the Amazons, and basically just everybody had headphones, binaural headphones, and in the space, and you are just like, there was not much to see in the stage, but it was just travel through the imagination. But it was so beautiful, just using all these new technologies, how they will transport you in different ways that you just You just need to explore all the different ways.
I have to add to or counter this a little bit because I think it would be misguided to treat virtual reality as an isolated experience. It is now moving full force into multi-user environments, and the type of experiences that Azure has been describing, live performances, music, collaborations, theatrical, are more and more happening in virtual reality right now. So we also have to keep.
Thanks for making that observation because it's been isolated thing. But yes, but it's true. Like now with, for example, Mozilla Hub is one of the things that is, if you put the glasses on, is really amazing. It's unbelievable. So I've been changing my mind now. Like okay, so it's possible to actually not feel there so lonely.
Great, thank you for that. We have a question from Daniela Macri. She thinks all of your innovations are really interesting and wants to know how museums can become safe places where people can meet again, and how can technology and innovation support that?
Well, I think museums have been working towards becoming safe places, or they try to be safe places right now. Obviously, that comes with a lot of restrictions and precautions. And I think technology can also be nicely integrated in this way. For example, through site-specific works and commissions such as mixed reality, the way Azure has been mentioning it, doing performances where audiences can interact with the performers and with the work in mixed reality environments through augmented reality, for example. So once again, I think there is a lot of potential also in this time where we aren't back to full capacity within museums. And in general, I believe that technology still is underused when it comes to educational materials or enhancing the experience of exhibitions in general. I realize this is also always a budget issue. You need to have the budget to implement all of this.
Okay.
It has to do also with budget, and it's pretty sad, especially this COVID has showed that really there is a huge problem on the economic side. People that don't have money have been the most affected. Health-wise, lack of insurance, but also the schools are not prepared for it. So I think if we want a true equal democracy and we want to that all these kids have equal opportunities and we don't end up in the same hole again, we need to invest in all these other people that have lesser means in order for them to be more prepared. Because also the future is very volatile, is ambiguous, is uncertain. It always been. It has never been certain. But just now we see that how fragile it is. And everybody was waiting for the arrival of AI to dismantle everything and every level. And then COVID came and shook everything. So that was so we never know what is coming for more than we prepare. And I think the only way to prepare for all these things is to prepare our minds for it, prepare our kids for it. And not only the rich kids, it's not right that they are the only ones who could be prepared with the education. So we need to invest in the societies from the bottom up, so we don't continue with the same problems and getting worse as they come.
And I think that's good advice for schools, for museums, for anyone who has anything to do with arts and innovation. Because even in non-COVID times, non-pandemic times, always the art, music was always on the chopping block for our young people. And it's been really difficult for people to enter these fields. I remember even 10 years ago when my kids were in college, maybe a little less than that, and two of them went into the arts field, one in theater, one is an art teacher. And people at that time said, that's the worst field you can get into in any time. theater, arts, it's the worst thing. So I want to ask you one last question. What advice do you have now, knowing all we've come through and all the new technology and innovation we've used? What advice do you have for young people who do want to pursue this as a career? It's their passion and they want this. Asher, why don't you go first?
Oh gosh. So, no, I would say go for it, because it is, I think, one of the careers of the future. As I mentioned, we are just going to continue with more volatility and uncertainty. So, and I think when we have a mind exposed to all these things, expose them to, not only the technologies, but it's also about theater, dance, music, design, many other things that are always changing. Because we are kind of like put into this box of thinking from schools, from the church, from society. That of course community is very important and very nurturing in all these moments, but it could become very oppressive. So we need to learn how to live well with both of them, having that comfortable area, but breaking away from it to think differently. Because otherwise we will just continue with the same. We are going to be surprised all the time when positions disappear. So we need to think ahead. How do I think this is going to change in 5 years? 50 years. What is going to happen? I used to study before I got into it was in media technology. Actually, my focus was Asian antiquities, Angkor, from the 1st to the 10th century, and I studied all these areas, how these empires, they were great at the time, and how they were transforming, and how they disappeared. So just thinking now we are kind of like that, try to be visionaries, and by being visionaries also means breaking your comfort zone. Look at other people that are out of the box thinkers, and learn from them, because many of these people have ideas and have visions of how things could work and what could work for us. Look at the performers. The performers that I'm presenting, like Victoria Modesta, or some of those that have you see them as disabilities, but when you think that they have this prosthetic leg and they decided to become performers, pop stars, Jason Barnes when he lost his arm, he could have thought my life is over. But when he had this robotic arm, now he became the fastest drummer in the world. So many of these things that are a bad thing, you could just turn it around as a possibility, incredible possibility to do.
I love the idea of possibilities and really keeping your mind open. Christiane, your thoughts on your students in this field?
Yeah, I would also say absolutely follow your passion. It's what I have done even at a time where this was a very underrepresented and marginalized field. And I would really recommend staying on top of all the technological possibilities that we have right now and being informed, because there is still tremendous need in the arts and museums world for expertise in this area, and really getting to all of the changes that Valentino has also proposed in terms of really expanding notions of exhibition and what an art experience can be. And we need a lot more expertise in that area. So I think this is really a great moment for everyone entering the field.
It's a good time for some deep thoughts. Valentino, would you like to make any last comments on our program today, or your thoughts for what's going on in today's art world?
This has been a very, very, very interesting conversation, and I think that a lot of interesting issues comes up. And what I would like to say is only that, in my opinion, we have also to change the way in which we look at the contemporary art world, and because today art is working with technology, are the one who are really re-envision the future, in my opinion, reinventing the future somehow, and artists are working always more with in the companies and scientific labs with technicians and team with the engineers, and in this way they are not only someone who create content for the contemporary artwork, but there could be a real engine for the future. During this pandemic, during the lockdown, there have been a lot of speech and conversation around artists, but the focus was very sad, in my opinion. And the focus was always about the welfare for artists. And the image of artists was terrible. These poor artists without money. That we need to help them, and because they are poor. And okay, yes, of course, artists needs money. The government must help them, but at the same time, we have to change the point of view and see how the artists can be helpful for the government. So not only how the government can help the artists, but the artists can be important for society and the government itself. But and in this way, we see that artists can be the real engine for the future. For instance, in my opinion, maybe it is a bit exaggerated, but I would push the artists into the government tax force as well. Because they can bring something new. And it's what is happening actually with artists working with companies and engineers. They're real reinventing the future. And this is also something new. I think that a cultural institution must follow it, must push these new changes. And I hope that it will be done. Actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Asher, if you have some last thoughts.
Sorry, I would like to say that I was just thinking, Italy has been always such a great place for artistic creativity since the Renaissance. They worked with artists and engineers, all came together, they were collaborating. Then everything got kind of divided in silos. And now we are in this era again with due to technology where it's cooperation. Many people, artists, engineers, scientists, are working together. So we this is another, I think, possibility of another renaissance for the people from interdisciplinary to come and work together. But also, there are so many Italians abroad, that have left Italy through the years. And it's so why not do a program, invite some of these artists to come back to Italy, give something back to the country in this moment where we need you, and spend 3 months in Italy. Each of you will pay for the trip, and you work in different sections of the country. So rehabilitating, regenerating areas, towns that have been abandoned, working in communities. Because it has to be, you cannot just bring people from Poland or from the US or Canada, no. Yes, it would be great, but these are people that don't speak the language, don't know the culture. So you bring actually somebody that is of the expats to come back just for projects, that, kind of like the Irish did. The Irish have a huge colony, that huge number of people that left the country, but they are all try to incentivize and go back, give something to the country. And there's so that's one of my things, because Italy has had so much in art, design, music. Some of the great thinkers, created the futurism, the arte povera, the beginnings of the experiments in arts and technology. Many of them were Italians. So it's time to.
So you mean
back.
Not only for pizza then?
No, but you could give them a slice too when they come. But it's no, but it would be. I think it's a great moment to.
Thank you, Asher.
Bring them back.
Okay.
It's what we're trying to do with Mega Faire, actually.
Yes.
I think we need to pause for a minute with some technical issue.
I don't know if Christiane wanted to say something. I saw that she has muted the micro. Okay.
Oh.
I just want to say that just please follow the Maker Faire, because there are more than 40 artists and created works for site-specific for the Maker Faire somehow, from performances to virtual environment to live. Many other artists from all over the world. There's going to be as well Signe Pierce, which is a young American artist. She will do a performance on the new Renaissance, and talks and conference, and many other think you can see, you can look it up on the website.
Okay, thank you all so much for these presentations. I think we have a lot to think about. I think we're really inspired. I feel good about continuing my career as a cultural attaché for the U.S. government because culture is going to be an important part of our lives going forward, as always. I wanted to mention, too, that Christiane and Asher are 2 of 10 American artists, makers, innovators, techies, inventors participating in this year's Maker Faire. And the others are Ken Goldberg in robotics and automation, Signe Pierce, performance, photography, video, Hyphen Community, integration of art and technology, Pioneer Works, community building through arts and sciences, Claudia Hart, 3D imagery and virtual presentations. Let's see, we have Lev Manovich, digital humanities, social computing, new media art, Steve Lambert, art, advertising, and public space. I think I got them all from this year's Maker Faire 2020. Thank you, everyone, again for participating. Thank you to all our viewers. And thanks to the Maker Faire for putting on this great event again this year and for working with us and allowing us to do a Transatlantic Thursday with you and the artists. And to our viewers, I hope you come back in the next season, our winter, spring season. We'll have a lineup soon, and we'll let you know what that is on our website and in our Facebook page. So please stay tuned. We'll return after the holidays. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.